So any questions or any technical difficulties that you're having, put them in the chat. We have two of the officers here taking care of that and letting people in. We want to keep the event flowing as best as possible. So if you have any questions for the speakers, leave them at the end. We're gonna have a little Q&A session at the end. And yeah, anyone who is here just to see the webinar or the student, just turn your cameras off. We don't want to have any technical difficulties with the connection too. So only the faculty for IE and the speakers can have their camera on right now. So, all right, let's get started. So we planned this little event here, a webinar for career development, as we thought this would be very helpful for students, because right now with all the COVID going on, it kind of gets more difficult to look for a job. And we thought that this would be a little good session for general information on how to help you get a job or during the pandemic, and maybe give you some tips on what to do during college to give you more chances of landing a job right now with a pandemic. So let me go to the next thing. So here's the agenda for the event, just a little heads up. So we're gonna introduce our IISE chapter. Here are our speakers. I'm gonna show you a little bit of their bios here. Then at the end, we're gonna have a little Q&A. And at the end, just tune in for 5 minutes. We're gonna send a survey for feedback, just to see if you liked it, anything better we could do, and that type of good stuff. Okay. So who are we? We are with the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineering, and currently I am the president. Our vice president is Olivia McBride. Could you say hello, Olivia?
Hi.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah?
I'm Nicholas.
Oh, there you go.
Welcome to this
Okay.
webinar.
So those are us in the picture. There are Mason and Patricio are actually used to be here. They're graduates. They're going to be being speakers for you today. And the other guy next to Mason in the photo, and between Nicholas and Mason, is Mrs. Cousin. I'm not sure if he's going to be here, but yeah. So we, as I said, we're the chapter for IE. We planned this event for you guys. We think it's going to be very helpful for you. And before we continue, I would like Dr. San to say some words before we get the speakers going.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alfonso. Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. We hope you and your families are safe and well during this difficult time. So, as you know, most of us are working from home now, and the pandemic has certainly altered our lifestyles as well as the global economy. So it's very unfortunate that so many companies are needing to lay off their employees and implement hiring freezes. So one of our goals for this webinar is to equip our students with strategies to be better prepared and also less vulnerable to the job insecurity, and also to encourage you all to be proactive in taking the steps to take advantage of opportunities out there. And we also hope that we can also talk about the career opportunities, specifically in the industrial engineering field of study, and also as well as the industry expectations from the industrial engineering major students, and some practical tips on the job search and job preparations. So today we have 3 guest speakers. Alfonso will introduce them in a minute, but I'd like to sincerely thank them Mr. Carl Adams from Raytheon, and two of our recent IE graduates, Patricio and Mason, for their valuable time and also sharing their insight and experience. Also, I'd like to thank our IE faculties and staffs, Dr. Pines, Dr. Valles, Dr. Molan, and Ms. Cecilia Gomez, and also Dean Sullivan and her office staff members for their tireless works for our students' success. I do really appreciate all the good works that they have been doing for our students. Okay, now I'd like to turn it over to Alfonso. Of course, last but not the least, I'd like to thank to Alfonso, Olivia, and Nicolas for coordinating this meeting as well. Thank you, Alfonso.
All right. Before we get the speakers talking to you, I'm gonna introduce them real quick to you to show you who it is. So here you go. So here's our speakers, Patricio Alvarez. He graduated last semester. He's a really good friend. Right now he works with Gambia, and he's gonna be one of them talking to you. Here is Mason, another student who graduated, I think it was 2 semesters ago. I don't wanna be wrong, right? And right now he's working at Carlsbad. And here is Carl. He is an old student. He right now is a manager at Raytheon, and he has a bachelor's and master's in industrial engineering. So he's gonna give a good amount of information. He's gonna help you out. He's been a good amount of time in the industry, so he has a lot of knowledge to give us. So Carl, I'm gonna turn it over to you so you can start, okay?
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here with you. So as you mentioned, my name's Carl Adams. I am the Industrial Systems Engineering Manager for Raytheon Technologies in North Texas. Just give you a little bit, I'll give you a brief synopsis of my career, both academic and professionally. I'll talk a little bit about what employers are looking for. I am a hiring manager. I can talk about some of the things there. And then I'll also give you some of the tips that I wish I'd known when I was coming out of school that hopefully can help you kind of move your career along. And then, as you mentioned, we'll do some question and answer later. So just a background. So I did graduate from New Mexico State with a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering in May of 2004. I was a member of the Alpha Pi Mu chapter there. I was the secretary for my senior year. I did several internships with Los Alamos National Lab while I was there, mostly in the physical chemistry department, but I also worked with a contractor in environmental engineering. I started out with not the best grades, I won't lie, but I did finish strong. I made Dean's List 3 of the last 4 years. Heavy focus in stochastic modeling and operations research for my last couple of years there. Although my overall GPA wasn't a 4.0, I was happy that I got a 4.0 in all of my industrial engineering classes. After that, I went into the workforce, started working at then Raytheon, now Raytheon Technologies. And I had applied to New Mexico State graduate school as a fallback. But then after I'd been working for 6 months, they said that my acceptance was still good if I wanted to start. And so after 6 months, I went back and started my master's degree at New Mexico State, utilizing distance education while I was living in Tucson, Arizona. And so if you look over there to the right, that was when I graduated. And that's my wife and my 2 oldest children. Just to set some precedents there, the little girl that my wife is holding is now a sophomore in high school. But it was, I graduated with a 3.9, would have been a 4.0, but that last class, I ran into some work deadlines and wasn't able to complete one of the last assignments, so it's a 3.9. But I had a heavy focus in stochastic modeling, systems, and engineering management. As I mentioned, I went straight from the workforce into to work for Raytheon, now Raytheon Technologies. I started out as an industrial engineer working on the floor. In that time, I got offered several great opportunities while I was there. Most notably, I was the industrial engineer on the project team that implemented the $70 million Raytheon Redstone missile facility in Huntsville, Alabama. It was a great project to be part of. We used automated guided vehicles and a lot of automation to put together these products, which is the sea-based interceptor and the Standard Missile 6 interceptor for the Navy. So it was a great project that I was able to be involved with there. Very proud of that. I always served as a team lead on multiple occasions over several industrial engineers, anywhere from 4 to 12 at any given time. And in that time, I was able to move around and work on just about every missile that Raytheon had, which was saying something at the time. The other thing that I was very proud of was I got to be part of the recruiting team that came back to New Mexico State every year. And so I was very glad that I was able to come back and hired several alumni, not only out of the industrial engineering department, but out of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and even some out of finance. And so it was good to be able to come back, stay in touch with the department, and also see the great work that our graduates were doing and be able to stay in contact with them. After I'd been doing that for about 11 years, they offered me the opportunity to be the manager of the advanced manufacturing team. And so that was the group predominantly around creating the automation to create our products. And so if you look over to the right there, that was a project we came up with, which was utilizing a collaborative robot to automate the bonding of domes that go onto one of our products called Stormbreaker. And so with that, we were able to develop an automation cell in under 6 months with under $100,000 of budget. And so we were very proud of that. We were able to reduce the cycle time on those products from about 1 every day to 6 in an hour. So that was a huge investment that we were able to make. So I was very proud of that. After I had been working in that role for about 2 years, they came with me the opportunity to relocate my family from Tucson, Arizona to here in the Dallas, Texas area into McKinney to be the manager of the industrial engineering group here. So I took that opportunity, moved early last year. So right now I manage a team of 10 industrial engineers that's going to be growing to about 14 in the next couple months. Moving from Raytheon Missile Systems over to Raytheon Intelligence and Space, where we, instead of producing missiles, we now produce products that are used primarily for surveillance. And so over in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the multispectral targeting system. That's a product that is used by our customers for drones to be able to pick targets out in there. One of my industrial engineers got to go up in a plane and fly it, and she was amazed at the fact that while flying at 20,000 feet, she was able to look down and read the characters on a Chick-fil-A drive-through menu while she was flying overhead. So very amazing product we put together there. And also the MERS radar, which is a radar system that we produce, which allows for our armed forces to be able to detect products while they're out in the field and to be able to defend themselves. So Raytheon Technologies is an aerospace and defense contractor. And so I've been very proud to be part of that going forward. One of the things they asked me is, what are employers looking for? So I have had the opportunity to hire to interview several hundred candidates and hire several of them over that time. So people asking, what can I do to make myself stand out? So, first and foremost, grades are something that we do look at, not to say that a 4.0 is going to get you everything, but if you got something in that 3 category, that's usually what we're looking for, and a good mixture of classes. So that's one of the things that we've seen there. I had one friend in college say that they put not applicable for their GPA, and he had a hard time getting a job. So just make sure you're taking your studies there. The other thing that really goes hand in hand we look for is practical experience. The more relevant, the better. So one of the things I'm very proud of at Raytheon is we have a very good internship program. So I know sometimes several of my colleagues, when I was in school there, would go on internships and basically they got put in front of a computer and did spreadsheets the whole time. One of the things that we pride ourselves at Raytheon is that it's really, you get to come in and basically act like a full-time employee. So when you look for internships, think about what your interests are and where you want to end up. So, at Raytheon, I had an intern last year. They developed some code for us to automate some of our standard processes for creating carts and racks, to basically a huge reduction there. We also do a lot with time studies, value stream mapping, things like that. But anything in that area where to show that you got the practical experience is really going to make you stand out above those other candidates in there. Relevant projects is another thing to really look at. So when you do some of these things, I would say that like the projects that I did at New Mexico State, particularly in some of the technical ones, they really give you some valuable experience and then reaching out to industry there. So make sure you take advantage of those. and make sure that you really talk those up, because those can be just as valuable in a lot of cases as some of those internship experiences, because you get to deal with real data in real time there. Working with interdisciplinary teams is a huge asset when you look at it from an employer standpoint, because very rarely do we get to work just with industrial engineers or just with mechanical engineers or just with electrical engineers. Most products, as they go together, require all of us to do our part. So working through that and being able to team, not only to get along well, but also to put together a superior product, it's something that really shows up. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. I know that with the capstone classes I did at New Mexico State, it really prepared me well for that. And just seemed like every class there was some type of a project I was working on. Beyond that, I think the other thing that we were looking for is interpersonal skills. So coming into this right now, having that positive can-do attitude is going to get you a lot further. You know, there are many times where I go into a project knowing that it was like, it was going to be hard, but knowing that having faith in my skills that I could do it, we were going to accomplish it there. The other thing we're looking for is relates well to multiple groups. I can remember some times in my career where literally I would go from talking with somebody on the floor with less than a high school education, talking about how to put together a product, and then go give a presentation to the vice president of operations about trying to justify a multi-million-dollar expenditure. And so with that, you need to be able to relate to people of all types. So, one of the things that you get from these outreach programs, like being part of IISE or Alpha Pi Mu, is it gives you a chance to interact with people, but learning those skills to be able to relate to people is going to help you a lot, not only in the interview, but in the workforce. Because one of the things you'll find out as you go through this, especially in industrial engineering, a lot of times it's not necessarily your ideas, it's the fact that you're able to synthesize other people's ideas. And so what you need to do is be able to communicate with those people in a way to empower them and to be able to help synthesize a better solution than you can in there. I think the last thing I can say is just work ethic. Lots of people come out of school with great ideas. I remember when I came out, I had all kinds of ideas of how I was going to improve Raytheon within a couple of months and be able to move up the ladder very quickly there. But I realized that right now there's a dearth of people there's lots of people with great ideas. Very few people have the tenacity to go out and get things done. So when you come in, look for those opportunities to get your hands dirty and be able to accomplish something. Many times in my career, I was brought in to be able to do something because they knew that I had the reputation of crawling around on the floor, finding those things that need to be done, literally laying tape. So do those things that you can do to really kind of move your ideas forward and make them a reality. That's going to really set you apart much as anything else. This is kind of what I wish I'd known coming out of school. One of the things that we talk about is whenever I have career discussions with some of the people early on in careers, I ask them, what do they want to be when they grow up? And they don't know. So go and think about where you want to be. You don't have to know what the end game is, but know what the next step is that you want to do. So take a look around and figure that out. And even if you say, I don't know, say, I think I'd like to learn more about this. Another thing, as a supervisor, I really do want to help my people get to where they want to be, but I won't know unless they tell me. So make sure that when you come in, be bold, talk to your boss about your career aspirations. Talk about, I want to be a project manager. I want to have your job at someday. I want to be the greatest IE know, and I want to work on simulations. Know what you want to do and talk to your boss about it, because they will in turn look for opportunities to help you grow and help you find those things. Another thing I'll say is be open to new opportunities. When I was working as an industrial engineering lead, I had just finished a major project and I was figuring out what was next. And somebody came to me and said, we'd like you to be the automation manager. And I looked at him and said, I don't know that other than spelling automation and looking at it, I'm not sure that I'm the best candidate for this. And they said, no, you don't know much about automation, but you know project management, you know how to execute things, and you know how to lead people. And right now the group, we have technical experts we put in there before, and the group has floundered because they don't have the execution skills there. And so we would like you to try this. And so in so doing, I learned a ton about automation. I was able to help the group really thrive. And we went from almost being on the chopping block of being removed to being a key part of it and doing some huge multi-million-dollar projects. So when an opportunity comes looking, you need to be able to really do it. Another thing I'll give you a tip is, if you're sitting there and someone says, we really would like you to interview for this position, do it. Very rare. I mean, if when that happens, someone is looking for your particular skill set, and usually they're going to find a way to do it. The other thing I'll say is that even if you're not quite sure of the position, go ahead and apply for it. And if anybody offers you the interview, do it. You might accidentally get the job and come into one of the greatest things you've ever come into. So another thing to say is not every step has to be a step up. Sometimes those lateral moves, you learn more, and that will position you better for the next level. So take a look around and say, you know what? I've been an industrial engineer for a while. Maybe I want to go try being a manufacturing engineer for a little bit, or maybe I want to see if I try my hand at systems engineering. Do those things, because as you become more well-rounded, it's gonna make that next step easier, because with your breadth of experience, you'll be able to find things. Another thing to say is that, you know, I felt like in my first career, there was a lot of pressure that I needed to be able to move up the chain and be that manager. But one of the things I'll say is that you don't have to be president of the company, but you know, if that's what you want to do, stay technical, do those things that you want to do. There's a lot of times where we end up with a dearth of experience down at the bottom, because people always move up and then we end up training new engineers. So look for those ways to stay technical. And even if you do become a manager, keep that technical tenacity. I will say, you know, today I've been working with my team on leading these various things, but then I also got to consult on a discrete event simulation, and I kind of geeked out for a little bit. And it's one of those things where, like, never forget your engineering roots wherever you end up. Another thing I'll say is step into the mess. A lot of times a project would be going very poorly, and I would step in, and if things are going poorly, it's very easy to improve it and make it better. And so stepping in and showing that willingness is going to make you really stand out, because if you can turn around something big, people are going to remember that forever. And even if you only make it a little bit better, they're still going to know that you're a person that can come in and get things done. Another thing, have your facts and data together. There's a high tendency in the workforce today to people come in with ideas without any background or operate off that gut feel. If you've got your facts and data together and can make a compelling case, you can get things going. I was able to justify several projects just based on knowing this is my process flow, this is my hours per unit, this is, you know, the improvements I think I can be there. And by doing that, we were able to justify some things and make some huge improvements. Another thing is to speak up. As a young engineer, I was very shy at first. I didn't think that my ideas were going to matter that much, because there were engineers that were 5, 10, 20 years my senior. But when you speak up with your ideas, sometimes they synthesize into something even greater than the whole. So have confidence in your abilities, and go for it. Another thing to say is nothing is below you. That's not to say that you go and kick and scream, you know, bite people or things like that. But one of the things I'll say is that I was working a project and they said, you know, things are dirty. And so after I got done, I spent an hour sweeping up the floor. Not because not because it couldn't be done, but it was because I felt like it was important and showed attention to detail. And so if you show that work ethic of like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to move this ahead, you're going to be noticed, and eventually bigger opportunities will come to you. That's the other thing, is getting your hands dirty. I remember one project we were trying to figure out where, you know, whether a sink had deionized water or regular water. People are like, well, I don't know. Can we call facilities? How can we figure this out? And so they asked me what to do, and I got on my back, it was dusty, went underneath and did the scientific method of looking where the pipes came out with, and concluded very quickly that it was deionized water. We had a solution within a couple seconds, but we were about to go down a path where it could take us weeks or months to get an answer. So look for those opportunities to really get in and get technical and do those things that need to be done, and you'll move forward in your career. I'd say another thing is look for inspiration outside of your field. I remember one project I was working on, we were developing a material handling philosophy for how to handle very expensive space products that were being turned over to the Missile Defense Agency. And people were like, we really need to benchmark some protocols to how to do this, but I don't know that really anybody has any experience outside, you know, in our industry to really help us with this. And so they said, anybody have any ideas? And I just had my first child, and they said, I think we should go talk to what's going on at a delivery unit over at the hospital, because they've got rules for how you handle those babies. There's protocols, you know. I only hold it there, I hand it to my wife. If we're going anywhere, we put it in a cart. And, you know, we were able to benchmark a lot of those things that came out of a NICU and turn it into a handling procedure for space products. So look for those ideas that are outside that may help lead there. And one of the things about diversity is everybody's got a different background, and you never know when your idea is going to be the thing that changes your product or changes the world. I'd say another thing is to keep learning. that's not to say, necessarily you have to go back and get a master's degree, but being open to new ideas. I was given an opportunity to help design a clean room. And other than taking Chemistry 111, where I met my wife, I didn't have a very good background in chemistry and contamination engineering. But during that process, I was able to learn a ton about it. And now, even now, I'm considered like somewhat of an expert that people consult on clean rooms when they're setting them up in my company. So take advantage of those learning opportunities and look for something outside your field, maybe, or just outside your swim lane where you can learn a little bit more. It'll make you just that more valuable. I think another good thing to say is you don't have to know every answer. I was sitting in a meeting one time and somebody turned to one of my colleagues and asked if he knew an answer. He says, I don't know, but I know who does, and that's just as good, or I'll go find out. So be willing to go, use your network, and find the answers to those hard questions that you need to. If you do those things, you'll be successful overall. And all I can say is that I'm glad that I followed these things, and I wish I'd known some of these things. I probably would have moved up in the company a little faster than I have. So that is what I've got for right now. And then just to share, that is a product called Next Generation Jammer, which we build on an automated guided vehicle, in case anybody's wondering. And so we can talk a little about that later at one of my other facilities. But thank you.
Thank you, Carl. That was a really good presentation. It was really good, valuable info. Thank you very much. Okay, Patricio, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let me just
Right.
put my share screen. Do you guys see it all right?
On my side, it's good, yeah.
There we go. Are we ready to get started, Alfonso? Hey guys, first off, thank you so much for having me after just a short time. It's really great to be back here at NMSU, even though we can't be here physically, but we always gotta be adapted to this situation. So thank you so much to the IE department, to the College of Engineering, Alfonso, Olivia, Nicolas, Dr. Schoen, Dr. Weiss, everybody involved in putting this together. I really think it's great that we're adapting. We're still making sure we get the word out to our students in our engineering, all of our engineering programs, and giving them advice on and making sure we're setting them up for success. So let me start with a little about me. So my name is Patricio Alvarez. I'm from the beautiful city of Monterrey, Mexico. I came to NMSU in 2018, I believe, as an international student. I was a transfer student from the University of Arkansas, and I also got the chance to study in Monterey Tech in my home city. I graduated this past May with Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Engineering. And during my time in school, I really made sure that I was making the best out of it. I love to use an analogy that college is like a cruise ship. And in the sense that for those of you that have gone to a cruise ship, you pay your room, you pay your being there, and you have so many amenities available to you. And it's really up to you if you want to stay in your room or just, go to the buffet and the pool, or if you actually want to take advantage of everything that's being offered to you. And that applies to university because you've got so many things like student orgs, you've got research opportunities, jobs, networking opportunities. So make sure, that's my main advice for you tonight, make sure you're really making the best out of it. So during my time in school, I got the opportunity to be president for the IISE student org. I was also a presidential ambassador, where I got the chance to work directly with President John Florals on many of the networking alumni events with donors and so many other partners and friends of the university. I was also a leader for recruiting of graduate engineering programs, especially for international students in Mexico for the College of Engineering. And as you can see in the bottom right picture, I got the chance to represent NMSU in the PACE competition, which I'll talk a little about it a little later. So just a quick overview of what I'm going to be covering for tonight. I'm going to start off by talking a little about what I do now, my work experience. I just joined the workforce, so bear with me. I'm not going to have as much as Carl. I'm also going to be talking about the value of an engineering degree and about that transition of being a college student to entering that workforce. So I currently work for a company called Columbia Nutritionals. It's a food manufacturing company mostly that's headquartered in Ireland, but interestingly enough, most of their operations and sales are in the US, probably over 70 or 80% of those. So pretty interesting company. As you can see in that center picture, that's all the things we do. Our biggest products would be the cheese market and the sports and performance nutrition. We're actually the largest provider for cheddar cheese in the whole US. We also make other types of cheese. We make for you bodybuilders who are gym lovers, if you ever buy those like whey protein supplements, it most likely comes from us because we handle all the major brands in the US. And we also do a bunch of stuff that represents smaller markets such as animal nutrition, bakery, clinical and medical nutrition, early life nutrition, and so on. Just to give you a little context on the company, we have revenues of about $4.7 billion per year. That's including both the US and international markets, and have about 7,000 employees worldwide. So I actually joined what's called the Graduate Rotational Program. So it's a program where I get the chance to every 6 months work in a different function in a different place in the US. And right now I started in Southwest Cheese, which is the largest cheese company in the US that's located in Clovis, New Mexico. I'm working right now as a production engineer, and I'm not working actually on the cheese side. So a byproduct of cheese is the whey, which we make that whey protein that I was talking about. So my main responsibility right now is basically I'm managing a team of over 20 operators, and I'm in charge of, I'm accountable for that shift, for that production shift, make sure we're meeting all our targets for that shift. And just to give you a little numbers, so every day I'm responsible for the production of over 100,000 pounds of whey protein. That's we make several different products, some higher end, some cheaper, but that represents about $500,000 in product that I'm responsible every day, that I'm accountable for. So that's what, maybe 150 million a year plus. So that's definitely, a big pressure that it's something you gotta be really on top of, very attention to detail, because if something's not going right in that production line for even just a couple minutes, at the volumes that we're pushing out, you're literally spending thousands of dollars per minute. So we really got to make sure that we're on top of that. So part of that is, my main responsibility is being accountable and managing that team, making sure we're meeting all those targets. And the other side would be a little more project management based. So, we're very big on Six Sigma, on lean manufacturing, and on continuous improvement, and all those good things that we learned about during our time at NMSU. And we're always looking, how can we make this better? How can we be saving costs? How can we be more eco-friendly? How can we save more water? Stuff like that. So I've gotten the opportunity to work in really, really cool projects, especially related to cost saving, water consumption, lowering our protein intake and stuff like that. So it's a pretty interesting job. It's something that once I get to a little on my previous experiences, it doesn't really go with what I've done. And I'm very aware that this is not what I want long term. It's only one rotation, but I'm really grateful that I'm having it in this, because it's one of those, production is one of those, very, very essential functions that, even though if you work in corporate or if you work in somewhere else, you gotta have that experience, because you gotta be able to bridge that gap, between plant workers and people who are making decisions for them. So let me move on a little to, why I think engineering is the best thing you can be studying right now. Of course, this depends. We all have different motivations. We're all motivated by different things. Maybe you're motivated about that big paycheck you're going to get as an engineer, or about, building stuff. And it really depends on each one of us to identify that. I know that for me, whenever I graduated high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was going to study business because, that's what my father studied, and I thought that would give you good opportunities. And I've always been more naturally sort of like business oriented. So engineering wasn't really an option for me. But, I started getting into it, learning about it, and seeing like, hey, I'm realizing that I'm very good at that sort of like interpersonal skills and more sort of like business skills, whereas I really lack in that technical ability. So, hey, I'm gonna study engineering so I can bridge that gap, so I can complement those skills and be able to offer a more well-rounded skill sets. So for me, that's essentially why I went into engineering or industrial engineering. And I just want to put it out there, no matter what engineering discipline you're studying right now, you're doing that's a great selection. I can't even start to talk about the versatility of an engineering degree. We can literally work anywhere we want, whether you want to work in a plant, whether you want to work in manufacturing, whether you want to work in finance, you can work in anything you want. As a matter of fact, for my next rotation, which I'm probably going to be moving to Chicago in about January, that's most likely not going to be anything engineering related. That's going to be more corporate strategy in the HR department. So as you can see, we're not really limited to only manufacturing and project management and more common things that engineers usually do. We can literally go anywhere we want, and I think that's such a great thing. Another thing, I know that for everybody, it's really hard, that transition from being a student to actually joining the workforce. That's when we really get to adulting, which isn't always fun, but it's coming, so we better be prepared for that. For me at least, I know that for me, I thought like, hey, I have no idea what I'm going to do when I graduate and all that. But I want to talk a little about my trajectory from when I graduated high school and started college. So I took 5.5 or 6 years to graduate, and I think for me, that's the best decision I could have made, because I didn't really rush. I didn't want to finish in 4 years. I wanted to sort of like take my time and say, hey, this is my time to find out exactly what I want to do, exactly to sort of like find myself and see what I'm good at and see what I'm not, and explore all that good stuff. So during those 5.5 or 6 years, I got the opportunity to do 4 internships, all of them in different functions, from management consulting, HR. I did data analytics, and most recently in supply chain at Cummins. I participated in 2 startups. I had my own business before I moved to the US. I went to 3 different universities, which maybe that's not such a great thing. Probably just try to stay in one. I changed majors 2 times. Actually, I started industrial engineering, then I went to computer science, then I came back to industrial engineering. So my point with all this, there's some people that just know what they want to do, and that's fantastic. Really take that to your advantage. But if you don't, that's okay. Make sure you're knocking on all doors and trying to explore your abilities. And right now it's a very difficult time. This whole pandemic, COVID, it's changing the game. And just to reinforce, I know that for me, whenever I was in engineering, I would be taking calculus and all these hard classes. And I swear to God, after I failed an exam or something, I would ask myself, like, why? Like, why did I sign up for this? Why didn't I just go to an easier major? Why didn't I just, why didn't I take the path of least resistance? But like, it's normal. You're gonna doubt yourself unless you're some sort of genius, which, trust me, I'm not. You're gonna doubt yourself. It's gonna be harder. You're gonna be tested, but that's what it's all about. It's about failing and overcoming adversity and making it through the finish line. That's all that matters. You're gonna make, some of you are gonna fail. Some of you are gonna ask yourselves every day, why am I here? But some really good numbers that I was seeing today about the unemployment rates, that we're all following the economy, and it's bad and all that. But just so you know, I believe the unemployment rate for September was about 7.9 or 8%, which is getting better, but it's still not good. Well, that applies for all the job market. Do you know what it is for engineers in the US? That's about 3.4. That's 3.4%. So, we're really not as affected as other people. And that just talks about, how good of a degree and how valuable of a skill set we have. So just keep that in mind. Right now it's very difficult times, especially as a student. We're really challenged, not only with this health crisis, but financially, socially, family, and all that. So just hang in there, and just remember that you know, it's all going to pay off. Make sure you put your best effort, make sure you do all that. And I jotted some things on things that helped me make that transition smoother from being a student to joining the workforce. So networking, student orgs, on campus, off campus jobs, student government positions, and branding. I want to talk about branding real quick. What I mean for that, it's sort of like self-branding. And what I mean is sort of like, let's say I'm very good at making videos or something. You know, I want to make sure that everybody knows that. I want to make sure that whenever somebody is thinking about finding somebody to make a video, they're thinking of me, that I'm their first choice. That applies. You gotta find what you're good at and make sure people know about that. You know, that may be through sort of like LinkedIn. Now that everything's remote, make sure you have a LinkedIn account. Make sure you're really promoting yourself. You're letting the world know how great you are and how valuable you are. So I guess my final message is get involved, make the best out of what you have right now. Make sure you're going around knocking on all doors, whether that's remotely or in person or whatever, and make sure you use our teachers as a resource. They're the best resource we have. We're so blessed to have such an amazing faculty, and trust me, you know, the opportunities that they're sort of like giving to us, it's amazing. So I hope, you know, my presentation or my speech was a little helpful. And if you have any questions, make sure to take down my info. Feel free to reach out, or if not, reach out to Alfonso or any of our faculty. They can definitely give you my info. And thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you very much, Patricio.
All right. My name is Mason Gregory, and it's a little bit about myself. Born and raised in Carlsbad, New Mexico. I obtained a Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Engineering from NMSU back in the December semester of 2019. During that time, I was the president of IISE, and I was on the recruiting team. Also worked with Dr. Valles a lot and helped program an Arduino to work with the injection molding machine, and many other college accomplishments. Something that I enjoy doing is 3D printing and designing. I bought myself a 3D printer. Actually, at the website that I'm working at, they bought a 3D printer about 10 years ago. At the time, it was around 10 grand. They bought probably 40 kilograms of filament. They used it maybe once. So when I got there, I told them, I said, what are you guys doing? You guys could be, 3D printing and modeling all this stuff. I told them we have a mine at the website. So they were dropping these devices on the ground and breaking them. $200 devices, they break one every week. So what we did is we 3D modeled and printed a holder for it, and they have broken a lot less. Let's say that. I also like to do outdoor activities like snowboarding and camping. So some professional achievements that I've done so far. So like I said, I graduated back in December. So I don't have many accomplishments, but I've been in the workforce for less than a year. And so keep that in mind. So I've interned for the NWP at the website over in 2019. During that internship, I was working in the ventilation group. So what I had to do is come up with predictive analysis on when the underground ventilation fans were going to basically need a preventive maintenance. So that was very interesting. Did a lot of Excel sheets and a lot of data mining. So I also participated in a lean event for my company back in, I want to say I worked there for 2 months, and I heard about these lean events. And for everyone that's in industrial engineering, you know that we do a lot of lean. Dr. Valles actually teaches that class, very good class, very, very knowledgeable. And so, I worked there for 2 months. I really didn't know anything about the facility. So whenever I heard about this lean, I just, I said, hey, I would like to be part of this event. So what it was is we have what they call a system health report. So we have basically a lot of system engineering out there that has to do with mining and also ventilation, like I was speaking about, also with environmental. I mean, we probably have over 100 systems out there. So these system health reports, every single system had to have a report at the end of the year, and it was taking these engineers months to do. I mean, 3-4 months out of their busy schedule to do this report that DOE, which is our boss basically, they have procedures in place to say, okay, we need all this stuff, and we got to have it. So you guys figure out a way to do it. So they came up with a horrible system to do it. So the event kind of focused on it. We brought that 4-month down to less than 2 weeks. And we're continuously working on improving this. If you know what, if you're familiar with Lean, it's constant improvement. It's not one-time fix. We'll never have to go back to it again. So that was very, very interesting. I was actually, the participants in that Lean event was me and 5 other managers that's been there for over 20 years. So if you guys get that opportunity, definitely take advantage of it and just go after it. Another thing I participated in was a risk assessment team. So what we did is we overlooked our plant as a whole. So like I said, we have a mine and we have a lot of employees above ground doing all the maintenance on all the equipment, underground and above ground. So we looked at a bunch of risks and that management overlooked or they didn't think was very important. Well, they since I did the Lean event, I was asked to come participate in this event because I did such a good work in the Lean event. So what we did was we came out with probably, I want to say whenever we first started the risk assessment, we probably had 15 risks. And by the end of our meet, we had over 80. So we identified a lot of risks and sent them out to management, and they were very surprised that we found all of those. I was also asked to find a thermal imaging device in response to the COVID virus. So my manager came to me and asked me if I could look for a thermal imaging device to automate our temperature screenings at the website and also multiple other sites that we have, I would say, control over that we overlook. So there's 5 sites in total. I was in charge of finding a device that would automate the temperature screening. So at the moment at the site, we have over 200 employees walking through a 2-door gate at a time. So there's already a huge bottleneck as is before the virus. Now, whenever you put in the mix a nurse that has to take temperature screenings of every employee that walks in, that adds at least another 5 to 10 seconds. Now, when you're talking about 200 people adding another 5 to 10 seconds, you're getting much longer of a wait time than you should. So I found a solution of a thermal device that was portable, cheap, and also that met our criteria. And some advice that I would give everybody that's in this room right now is take on challenges, especially ones that make you uncomfortable, especially ones that make you uncomfortable. Whenever I heard about the Lean event, I would just walk by my manager's office and I heard the top engineer, the head engineer, asked him, do you know anyone that would like to do a Lean event? And I stopped and I said, yeah. I stopped and I asked, well, what's this over? And, they said Lean, and I thought that's what, the Lean that I was thinking of. And yeah, I just jumped right on it and said, yeah, I'll take it. And I was really scared to do it, especially whenever I walked into the room full of just top managers. It was very intimidating, but they treated me as I've been there for years, and they didn't really, criticize me too much, which was very good. Actually, I was really the only one in that meet, the team that knew what Lean really was. You're talking about grown men that are in their 60s almost. They didn't know what Lean really was. So I took charge of a lot of the event and really gave them some insight. And I couldn't, it wouldn't have been possible if I didn't take that class and learn about Lean and really drill it in my head. So another thing is work on people skills. I know that a lot of engineers go into engineering thinking they won't have to deal with people. I'll tell you right now, if you want to be a good engineer, I mean, manager level, getting raises, you got to be good with people. You will, I mean, I'm already about to take over 3 or 4 systems myself. I'm going to have around 40 people underneath me. And that's not including maintenance that I'm going to have to go get whenever we got to do maintenance on a part out in the field, or having to do, work or work underground, anything like that. So you're going to be interacting with a lot of people. And if those people don't like you, or if you can't talk to them, it's going to make your life very hard. And it's going to make them dislike engineers a lot. I'll also say this: whenever I joined the working force, I thought that everyone, respected engineers, because we do all this schooling and work. That's not always the case. Most of the time, and I've talked to many professional engineers as well, they'll tell you it's the same thing. Most of the time, whenever you go to a company, there's a good chance that the engineer previously gave those guys a hard time. The engineer really made the people that worked under him hate engineers in general. So you got to really build up the people to like you as an individual and also as an engineer and respect you. One thing how to get people's skills is just, go to these, the event you're at right now, this one right now, ask questions, just take as much risk as you can, and, just go for it. If you mess up, it's all right. I've messed up many times, and it only makes you better. Also stay diverse. We're industrial engineers. Don't limit yourself to only industrial engineering positions. Don't do that at all. I know many people that limit themselves as mechanical engineers, and they don't think they can do anything else than that. They might think, oh, I'm really good at programming, but I'm a mechanical engineer, so I'm not going to pursue that position. No. Just go for it. Like I said, if you don't really know it, you'll learn it. You're going through college right now. You're learning a lot of stuff, very diverse as well. And a good thing right now, what everyone is doing is going for industrial engineering, which is the most diverse engineering out there. So, don't limit yourself to system engineer or industrial engineer. Just do whatever you think you're going to love. That's it for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Mason.
Yep.
Okay. So at this time, I would like to have a little Q&A session with the 3 speakers. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself or just put it in the chat. And we just use this time for any questions you might have for the speakers. And again, I would suggest really asking something to them that you may want to know. They are in industry, they're working right now. They can answer practically any questions you might want to come up with. How to make your resume, what stuff to look for. So feel free to ask him anything.
So I have a question for Mr. Carr.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate that help. So what is the company expectation from the industrial engineers? And can the industrial engineers also work in a mechanics company, or it's going to be better if you work in a producing and manufacturing company?
So I would say that, the nice thing about industrial engineering is it really does apply to all kinds of industries. I will say that, I work in defense manufacturing, but I also was in the last round of interviews for a job at Disney World, where I was going to be managing queues of people in there. And then my sister-in-law teaches math with her degree. So I would say that, there are a lot of things in industry, in manufacturing. There's a lot of positions where we can make a difference, but definitely our skills are applicable everywhere. You look at like some great managers on baseball teams, they have an industrial engineering background. It's just that ability to synthesize people into systems into there. I will say that one of the things that's nice about manufacturing, there's not a lot of manufacturing that goes on in the US now. And so one of the reasons that I went into defense is it's one of those things where it's kind of, I don't know, it's a spot where I can make a good living, but I can also make some changes here in the US. And so it's a nice thing there. But I would say, you know, don't limit yourself to manufacturing, but it's definitely a good field to be in because people always need stuff.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one for any of the three wonderful speakers that we had today. And that is what kind of skill sets outside of the IE discipline were the most valuable to you or that you wish you would have had? You know, one of the things that comes to mind for me is programming, Python, that kind of stuff, coding. That stuff's pretty much outside of the IE discipline. That's more computer science and some of the other disciplines. But is there stuff outside of IE that really helped you in your careers or stuff that you wish you would have had outside of IE that you did not have when you was going through the curriculum?
I can go ahead and answer that one. Is it Eddie?
Yes.
So for me personally, I think the major skill that, or the sort of like hard skill without going into soft skills that has benefited me in my, in my short career as of now, or all the internships I had, that would be data analytics. And not so much from the computer science part of, being able to program that and which is fantastic too, but being able to interpret data, being able sort of like more on the data visualization side, being able to make sense of that and converting that into actionable, actionable decisions. That's what for me, I think has helped me the most. And that's probably something that I will continue to pursue and develop myself in. And I think that applies, doesn't matter which industry, which function you work in. I think that really applies to everything nowadays. Everything's becoming more data oriented nowadays.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that also, Eddie. So I totally agree with you. I believe that I wish I would have taken more programming classes because, I mean, I'm working at a DOE site where, we're back in the 1990s and we're trying to, automate some valves, things like that. And I'd say programming would probably be my biggest regret not taking. And I can only imagine people like Carl. I'm sure Carl done a lot of programming, and at least he knows how to do. At least he knows where to go and who to ask. So yeah, that's probably my answer on that one.
I would say that the programming is definitely something there, and the integration of stuff. I mean, I watch my son building, robots with his Legos, and I'm amazed at what he can do. So take advantage of that. I would say the other thing that's kind of big in there is like the understanding business and finance is a huge advantage. Just like a lot of engineers come in, it's like, well, this screw is cheaper. It's like, well, yeah, that screw's cheaper, but since it's lesser quality, it's going to break easier, or because of the what length you picked, it's harder to put together, and so it's going to cost us 10 times as much to put it in there. And so being able to synthesize that business back with your engineering know-how is a huge advantage. And it doesn't even mean industrial engineering, just understanding like that total cost of what goes together and the manufacturability. For me, that's been a huge game changer there. But I would say programming and knowledge of business are the two biggest things that if an engineer is armed with, sky's the limit.
Those were all great answers. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's some questions in the chat. So here you go. Robin asks, knowing what you know today with respect to your job, what would you have done differently that you wish you would have known when you were in school?
Oh man, a lot of things, I guess. I mean, school is where, that's where you go to learn how to do a lot of things. It's, I would say I wish I would have been more outgoing at, freshman, sophomore year. It would have definitely made junior, senior year a lot easier, and it would have set me up in a better position for internships, and also, for the professional field. So I would say that if I had to do something different, that's what I would be doing.
So if you look at my resume, I got a C my freshman year in statistics for non-engineers because I only showed up to class about once every 2 weeks. And now that basically I've probably forgotten more statistics than a lot of people have known through my bachelor's and master's degree, I'd say just I wish I kind of buckled down that first semester, because even though I graduated with almost a 3.5, I was almost on academic probation my first semester. So I would say, make sure you focus the whole time and have fun, but not too much fun.
For me, I'd say, take more risks and fail more. I mean, I do feel that I took a fair share of risks, but now's the time to do it. Now's the time where being a student, I feel that you have this sort of like I don't want to say like immunity, but like like it's expected that you're gonna fail. It's expected that you're not gonna do good in everything. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of that and get involved in as many things as you can, and just don't be afraid to fail, basically.
All right, you guys have one more question in the chat from Samantha Morales.
I wouldn't say a computer science degree would help you get a good job in the industry, just because that is a very pointed degree. I mean, for example, I knew somebody that finished with a computer science degree, and it took him over a year and a half to get his first job. And he had 4.0 GPA, top of his class. It's still, so I would say computer science degree. It's a good degree, but again, very pointed now. And then I see a certificate. Certificate maybe, but I would say more of a general sense. Just take like a couple workshops in programming, just as long as you know the basics. I mean, I tell a lot of people, I know just enough I know just enough of something so I can efficiently Google it. That's basically what you need. Is just enough knowledge to know how to Google it. That's my advice for programming.
I would say, so I've been predominantly manufacturing based, but I will say that we have a high degree of people who do a lot of the programming and the algorithms that go into a lot of our products. And so knowing some of that computer science can help with that. I would say in general, having that engineering attached to your degree is going to break down a lot more barriers than a lot of other things, to be totally honest. So if you can get electrical engineering, and I think that engineering, it serves as a tiebreaker in a lot of interviews. And that's really what you're looking for, is you want to be able to get the interview, and then you want to have tiebreakers to make it so that you're the most qualified candidate over the other people that you're going for. So, it's not a bad if you're doing a dual major, it can't hurt, but, I'd say, get that engineering thing will definitely help you along your way.
And just to add on that, as a former computer science major, I think you gotta define what it is that you want regarding computer science. You want to be the person that's working on the back end for like coding, providing all that structure and organization to all those data lakes? Or do you want to be the person that gets handed the data and actually interprets it and makes decisions, informed decisions off of that? And both are great careers, both are great majors, but I think you just got to define, sort of like how into it you want to get. Because for me, I realized like, hey, I don't want to be all day as a data scientist, just, doing code. I just want to know enough so that I can sort of like bridge that gap and be able to talk about it, be able to understand whenever I'm working in a project, in a team setting, that I can know what I'm talking about, be able to speak both languages. Be able to speak both languages. So definitely, I think that's something worth, considering.
I have, okay, you go.
Go ahead. No, you're right.
Sorry for that. I have a question to you guys three. It's kind of really important to me, since the company I'm going to is needing that, and it has they do great, they test you, and they do interview you, and it's about the interview too. So they ask question in the interview, and there is a question I haven't found an answer to. I asked so many engineers, my family, but like I didn't get a satisfying answer for it. So if they ask me, how can you improve this company? I have nothing. Like, what do I say? Like, I don't know. I have so many things to say, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. So what would you say, guys, especially you, Carl, since you interview so many people. Yeah. And if they ask you that, Patricio Mason, like, please help me with it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let Carl answer that one. He's he's been in the industry much longer than we have.
So, when people, it's kind of a twofold thing. So if you've got experience in there, I would describe whatever problems you've seen within your department. So they asked, when I interviewed for manager positions, they'd ask me, what would you change about your department? And so I would come in with a list of ideas of just like, I don't like the fact that we can only use Creo. I would much rather use SolidWorks, or, I would talk through some of those things. And part of it is like, honestly, I'd say, I would like to go out and observe some processes and come back to you with an answer, to be totally honest, because, I mean, if people ask me, what would you do on day one? I'd be out on the floor figuring out how things work and then start looking for problems there. And that's where it goes. So for me, if you have experience, I just identify some real problems you've seen. And if not, I'd say, I'd like to hear some of your ideas about some problems you're facing and then talk about the solutions. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that.
Okay, there's 3 more questions in the chat. Well, actually 4, never mind. So let's do these last 4 so we can start wrapping up, okay? I'd say each of you take 1 question. One of you take 2.
Okay. I'll address the certifications, Six Sigma, etc. I personally believe that if a company wants somebody with Six Sigma, they will pay for them to get that Six Sigma certification. Also, if you need a certification in programming, for example, they'll pay for that. They do not expect somebody to be stacked on certifications, especially whenever you're just getting into the field. So yeah, I don't even know if they'd be looking for someone that graduated that has a certification in Six Sigma, or other very hard certifications or very expensive certifications to for example. So that's my take on that. So.
I can go ahead and answer, I believe, the first question from Jesus Marquez. So in terms of applying for a summer internship, how early should you start applying? And are internships necessary to find a good job? So to answer the first question of how early you should start applying, I mean, my opinion would be day 1, and sort of like a funny story. I applied to my first internship probably a month into college. Is it harder? Yes, it's going to be harder. And in my case, I was laughed off the interview, like literally, but hey, it doesn't matter, take those risks. It's never too early. And even if if they tell you it's too early, now they know your face, they know your name, and you tell them, hey, I appreciate it. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to develop myself further. I'll grab your contact info and you'll see me here next year. And for the second part of the question, sorry, I lost it. Where is it? Oh, are internships necessary to find a good job? I mean, no, I don't think they're necessary. They're really good and really helpful, but like, it doesn't mean that if you don't have a internship, you're not going to get a good job or a job at all. That just, absolutely not. And there's so many things that can sort of like be substitutes for internships. You may have on-campus jobs. You may be participating in research, going to competitions, representing the school in so many different ways. So internships is only one facet of that whole package that you're building for yourself.
I would also like to add to the internship question as well. Don't limit yourself to only industrial engineering internships, like I said in my slides. Even go for business internships, because there are a lot of business internships. So, apply for those. I mean, you're not going to get as paid as much, but you're still going to get that experience. Also, definitely, I made the mistake of looking for only internships that I would be super interested in. Don't do that. It turns out if you have an internship with one company, you're going to do almost the same thing in another company. So just go for the Intel, go for the guys that aren't as big as Intel or aren't as big as Names Cummings. Just go all internships and go even pursue those lower, you could say lower, status internships. Go for those even harder because, you want a very diverse experience. Another thing is if you do get an internship with Cummings, try not to go get the internship with Cummings the next year round. You might feel comfortable to go there again, but you're gonna lose a lot of knowledge by doing the same internship multiple times. So definitely just be very diverse in internships.
Okay, and then I'll take the other one there. For a younger student who hasn't had their first internship yet, what advice you have aside for actively looking for one? So, my main advice would be, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So as you said, take a look out there and look at the New Mexico State Career Fair, College of Engineering Fair, it's excellent. They have some excellent employers there. I don't think there was a single company that was there that I wouldn't want to work for. So take a look at who participates there and blanket them all. Talk to your friends and family. I'll be honest, I had not heard of Raytheon until I showed up at the career fair. And then they happened to be there at a table, and I had to convince the guy that I was worthy of an interview. He's like, well, we're looking for a 3.5 and you put a 3.49 on your GPA. And so I got a very hard lesson about rounding errors there. So make sure, you set up your resume there, but just basically, look for whatever's there and then take a look at what you're interested in. Working on missiles was pretty cool. I had no idea I'd be doing that when I was younger, I watched Star Wars and I thought that's a neat thing, but then to see working on, a product that basically is branded the United States air supremacy for the last 10 years, it's a pretty cool thing. So, just look at the things you're interested in and follow your dream. If there's a company you really got your eye on, keep applying. Eventually they're going to notice, just like, okay, let's give this guy an interview just so they'll go away if nothing else. So. And then as far as something that pairs well with IE, business, so I would say, you can see a lot of people that get the dual major in business there or an MBA afterwards. I think for me, a lot of the business classes weren't that challenging after I'd already taken some of those IE classes. So that one's kind of an easy add-on that'll get you, especially if you're looking at management, will get there. I would say, there's a lot of crossover between manufacturing and mechanical. So if you want to do some things in there and kind of get a minor in some of that, that's not a bad thing either. I would say systems engineering, also that gives you some ability to kind of cross over into electrical and some of the other ones. So systems engineering is a good thing to look at afterwards as well.
Okay, so we can go ahead and start wrapping up. So before every one of you leaves, Dylan, could you send the survey into the chat room so everybody can fill it out?
Yes, sir. I'll send it right now.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so all of you just take a little minute to fill that survey up, and once you're done, you're free to leave. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope all this information that our speakers gave you really helps you out in the future once you graduate or towards your next semesters. So is there anything else you would like to say, Dr. Son, before they leave?
Oh, okay. So before we let you go, everyone, we'd like to know how many of you are prospective students, as in for industrial engineering degree program here at NMSU. So how could we collect that, Alfonso? If we use or is that some reactions, then are you able to count how many?
You can just put a little yes if you're a prospect student. Okay. And I'll go ahead and see here in the participants.
So could you guys raise your hand if you are one of the prospective students thinking about going for the industrial engineering program here at NMSU?
There's one. Val?
Are you going for the master's program or PhD or bachelor's program? Could you?
Yeah, I don't like. I was thinking about that, but not sure specific because I was thinking even in case after I have the job and then obviously I would like that and I would go to, but I'm not specific right now.
Okay.